everyone. A big welcome back to the Nick Elston Show. It's season 5, episode 9, and I'm hugely excited about this one. I've been chasing him for 3 seasons to get him on the show. We have the one, the only Baasit Siddiqui. Woo!
Ooh, thank you.
The man. The legend.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. And I love that round of applause. I'm assuming you're going to add some canned applause afterwards as well, aren't you?
No, it's just me. I think clapping on Zoom is massively underrated. It kind of keeps the energy up, especially during lockdown when we had no energy, so we weren't stood up at all. Clapping really helps.
Fabulous.
Massively underrated.
I'm going to try it. All right,
try it. Give it a go now.
No. Yeah, my hands are
I didn't say slow. It's a bit early in the show to start slow hand clapping me. That's a bit much.
Yeah, no, sarcastic clapping. Yeah, apologies.
Yeah, come on, get on with it. So, okay. For fans of Gogglebox, you may recognize Baasit's beautiful face. Him with Umar and Sid, big stars of Gogglebox. However, he does exist outside of that slot on a Friday evening, I'm assured. I get access to the Baasit Siddiqui newsletter, so I've got really great insights into how he works, and I love the ethos of what he does, and we'll come on to that too. Our paths crossed first through the outreach team at the University of Portsmouth, where we were delivering content on the same billing, and our paths have not stopped crossing since through Baasit and his wonderful business partner Katie's work through education and beyond. We'll come on to that too. But Baasit, tell us about little Baasit growing up and what's brought you to, firstly, Gogglebox and then my virtual door today.
Fantastic. God, so all the way back, little Baasit.
All the way back, little Baasit.
All the way back, yeah. So Derby, born and bred, lived in Derby all my life. And when this goes out, if we're accurate with timings, 23rd of September, I've been in Derby for 40 years, the big 40.
Wow.
So yeah, lived in Derby my whole life. Yeah. Went to school there, went to the University of Derby. I'm a brother, and I've got 2 older brothers who you would have seen on Gogglebox, but 2 sisters as well. So there's a family of 5. And yeah, just lived in Derby our whole life, and I work within the world of education. Started as a teacher roughly 15 odd years ago now, but for the last 5 years I've been working in education in a broader sense, and obviously that's where our paths crossed.
Yeah.
And I am the director currently. If you're going to ask me what my role is now, I'm the director of my own business, Siddiqui Education. It's the most unoriginal, unimaginative name for a business.
What do you do, and who are you?
Exactly, yeah, honestly. And I had a conversation with someone a while ago and I still have this conversation with my wife, where if anyone wants to get in contact with me, they go, "Oh, what's your email address?" And it's Baasit Siddiqui. No, what is it? I don't even know it. That's how bad it is. Baasit.Siddiqui. No, it's not. It's Baasit at Siddiqui-education.co.uk. And I remember explaining this to someone, and pretty much in the same way that I did there, where I just fluffed it up completely. And he basically said, "It's not exactly Facebook, is it? It doesn't really roll off the tongue." So yeah, that's kind of essentially what my business involves, is working with students in lots of different ways. And obviously we'll get onto that. But it's also been kind of this journey of running a business as well, and the lessons I've learned along the way. And if there's one thing that I could take back, it's the name and the size of the email address in that situation. But again, it says what it does on the tin: Siddiqui plus education. I'd like to think that I have educated and informed through it. It's 5 years old now, so I think I'm doing something right if I'm still out and about being asked to do stuff and work with students. But yeah,
been a good sign, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It's either a really good sign or it's just a massive example of huge denial more than anything.
Either way, it's a win.
Either way, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm still smiling. That's the main thing. Yeah.
So, how did the Gogglebox opportunity come up? Is it something you had to apply for, or was it something that just fell into your world, or?
So it's one of the things that I talk about in one of the talks that I do, which is essentially making the most of an opportunity and making a good impression. Gogglebox has never been a show where they will ask for people to apply for. They do something known as street casting. I believe that's the term. I might be wrong with that, but essentially, their team are going around looking for people. So they'd find them in all walks of life, whether that's in a club, in a pub, in a library, wherever it is. But I remember when the first series came out, they also asked people that were working for the company. And it was a friend of mine that I met whilst I was at university years ago, became really good friends with them. And her boss asked her if she knew anyone who would be suitable for the show. And she thought of me in that situation. And I'm so grateful to that friend who I wasn't great friends with. We weren't talking all the time. In fact, we've probably not spoken in the last 5 years. She went off to live in London, start a journey in working in television. I'd started a career as a teacher. And I still have that Facebook message to date because it's nearly 10 years old, actually. Gogglebox has been on TV for 10 years nearly. And it was just a life-changing Facebook message. So the message I always give to the kids is make those good impressions. This world that we live in now, this digital world, you don't know where these relationships that you build can impact you in years to come. And I'm sure you all have experienced that as well. The strength of LinkedIn, all forms of social media, just a message out of the blue can have such a huge impact. And yeah, it was huge, and it was just acknowledging that as well. And I think what I've really enjoyed about the whole Gogglebox approach is education, and being an educator, you tend to become quite reflective in the work that you do. You kind of have to be. When you work with students on a day-to-day basis, not everything's going to work. Everything that you try and deliver and teach them isn't always going to land for so many different reasons. And it's up to you to reflect on, okay, why didn't that work? What could you do better? And you just instinctively become a reflective person in that situation. So it's always nice to take that step back and kind of put my teacher hat and my reflective hat on through this Gogglebox journey as well, and kind of reflect on the awesome opportunities that we've had and how they came about. So yeah, in answer to your question, it was someone that I met many years ago, made enough of an impression where she thought, yeah, this guy's a bit of a wally. Let's get a camera on him and let's see. Yeah.
Take the wins. Always comes back to take the wins, mate. It's
100%.
So as this is going out kind of mid-September, I think next week we'll be meeting at the Find Your Voice event in Bristol that you're coming down to actually get to meet in person, which will be an amazing thing. And one of the things I was talking about, which really aligns with that, which I will be covering, is around this kind of the importance of the personal brand, like far above any other organization, show, business that you represent. Your personal brand is the most important thing, because it's the easiest thing to kind of lose in terms of respect and credibility and stuff, as we see, especially in this kind of very open world of things like social media. But so it's interesting to see that those opportunities came from having a strong personal brand. You wouldn't have seen it at those words at the time, but it's absolutely strong character. You obviously said something right, which is always a good start. I think also
100%.
I think it aligns really well with, and I know we've spoken about this kind of many times before, kind of off camera with yourself and Katie, that I think attitude is everything. And I think opportunities are everywhere. It's just a case of looking for those opportunities. I kind of relate that to when I first went self-employed as a speaker many years ago. I went to work for Tesco for 36 hours a week delivering groceries, and because I found out the mortgage doesn't get paid on dreams and missions, sadly. So that kind of year that I spent there I could have easily just thought, well, this is not what I want to do, just get on with it, head down, kind of really grumpy. But attitude is everything. I had conversations with people on their doorsteps about what I was doing when I'm not dressed in high vis. And I got bookings off the back of that from lawyers that live in Bath in the posh areas. Also, I've submitted articles to the Staff magazine, and on the back of the success of those, they put me in the Public magazine, and that was what got me out of Tesco, weirdly. So it goes to show that you never know kind of what seeds you're sowing along the way, and I love that story. So thank you for sharing that with us.
No, and I think you've echoed some absolutely fantastic points there. Whatever your scenario, whatever your situation, essentially it was your mindset that thought, okay, this is what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, but how can I leverage each of these different individual opportunities? And I love the idea of you doing the written work as well, because that would just get your name out there. And it's almost you just testing aspects of what works, what doesn't work. And then when you can start to do it on a bigger level, you're there with that, which I think is just absolutely fantastic. And it's so nice to talk about it within the scenario of working in Tesco as well. Exactly as you said, whatever form or fashion you have to provide for yourself or your family, you have to do it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you kind of do it with your head down. You can just treat all of those experiences as learning experiences. And I'm so grateful. And again, it goes back to that reflective nature. It goes, I'm so grateful for all of the different opportunities that I had prior to Gogglebox, in terms of all of the different jobs that I've done and the different people that I've met that have pushed me out of my comfort zone in so many different ways that you don't really appreciate it until you look back on it now. But for example, to get me through university, one of the jobs that I did was I worked as a domestic and a porter at the NHS.
Okay.
So essentially, yeah, and I was working within the theatre. So the hospital theatres, the surgical theatres there, and I was very introvert there. And I remember as a domestic, as a cleaner there, I just would not say anything to anyone. It wasn't me just having an air about me or anything like that. It was just I was quite a shy, nervous person and talking. I remember there were a group of staff that I worked with 3 times a week for about 3 years that really helped me come out of my shell. And I was so grateful that I was able to meet those people, look at the world in a different perspective, and to start being able to have conversations with pretty much anyone, which again, it's just a learning journey. It's not an easy thing, but once you immerse yourself in those situations and try and make the best out of them, I'm amazed at what you can take from each of those. It isn't about those bits of pieces of paper. It isn't about those qualifications. It's all of those transferable skills that start to mold you into the person that you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, that you do kind of learn from those experiences, you bring them forward, but let's face it, there have been some things, you'll get this as a speaker yourself. There's some things I think in my mind, this is going to be amazing. Everyone's going to be rolling in the aisles, absolutely bombed, nothing. Tumbleweeds going by and everything. And there's some things that I just trip over by accident and it works brilliantly. So it's a constant work in progress, right?
It is 100%. And what I found is, and it throws me, so I've done talks and elements of the talks that I do for an adult audience and then a younger audience, so within schools and a school setting. And I think part of my learning journey has been that one joke that works with one audience doesn't necessarily work with another audience. What I've got better at is reacting to it and just kind of moving along without pausing for the applause and the laughter and then the reaction on my face not getting it. It's almost like let's just quickly move on. Let's just try and get past this as fast as we can do.
I like that. So you mentioned obviously your work in education, pre kind of Gogglebox. We're talking more now with the teaching, but I think certainly the work which kind of helped our paths cross over the past couple of years, sadly, actually came about from an increase in work that I was doing in the mental health space in education. It hasn't always been a big area that I've worked in before, but I think certainly the lockdown and the pandemic and kind of remote working, home working really fueled that. And there seemed to be, in that initial period, a lot of big challenges around mental health when it comes to students initially, but then it seemed to transfer. It seemed to be the people then that looked after people. So I was doing more work with the lecturers, the teachers, the carers, the parents, the guardians, far more than the students that have kind of adapted a little bit more easier to this. I mean, these are generalisms, of course, but I think collectively, though, education has really struggled over the past couple of years, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what the pandemic has led to is people feeling a bit more open and honest and being able to talk about it a little bit more, and there's less of a stigma attached to it. That stigma is going to exist in some form or fashion. People are always going to struggle to talk about it, but it's nice to see that people are opening up to it and acknowledging that we've been through this collective trauma and kind of being able to to talk about it a little bit more. And I think, yeah, as you said, whether we're generalizing it or not, kids have an element of resilience and kind of just soldiered on and got on with it. Whether or not they're just not there and can't articulate it, or it's just kind of the tip of the iceberg, we'll see the impact that it's had in years to come. Whereas I think adults don't have that luxury. They kind of have to, if they're struggling, they have to kind of open up and share. And social media can be a fantastic tool in that sense, where you see some really honest, real conversations and people really opening up about the challenges that they've had in terms of their mental health. And it's so nice to see that people have the confidence to do that, because every one person that does that will embolden someone else to be able to talk about it a little bit more as well. And I personally, my background isn't necessarily supporting mental health and well-being, but knowing that people are talking about it can only be a good thing, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And the work that you do now, which we will come on to for sure, very much is helping people too, in that space, and more power to your collective elbows on that as well. I think it's really needed. And I think you're right. I think, according to Harvard, social media was the biggest source of anxiety between 18 and 29-year-olds. But in the same survey with the same demographic, it was the biggest source of positive community for mental health. So you're right. It's not the platforms, it's our immersion in those platforms. And very often we just lose that kind of choice of how we choose to interact with those platforms. And I think that's led certainly to my decision to not be on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. I came off in April 2020, and actually having that kind of big network, and that's kind of more of a mental health protection thing. But you are right, there's a lot more kind of good going on, but I think sometimes we don't always trust ourselves to immerse well, kind of doom scrolling or actually opening up and then not having that inspirational solution to catch you, I think, is another challenge as well.
And I think that's completely understandable as well, isn't it? When we think about the world of social media and kind of, it's in its infancy, isn't it? And I liken us to the generation that knew a life before social media and then got into this experience of being immersed into it. And for me, it's really about, okay, if this is how I'm reacting to it today, and these are the feelings that I have scrolling through and having these negative feelings as well as the positive ones, how are my children going to deal with it as well? And I think I've always got that parent hat and that teacher hat on in that situation, thinking that, and I always liken it to, when it comes to technology, our kids are going to cross the road, whatever happens. As they grow up, they're going to have to cross the road. It's up to us to teach them how to do it effectively. Yep. But the issue that we've had is we've had roads for generations and generations. We can kind of do that instinctively. I'm happy to teach how to cross the road. When it comes to social media and how to actually access it, my daughter's 8 at the moment. I was having this conversation with my wife yesterday about at what age is she going to have a phone. There's rumblings that are potentially some kids within her class in a year or two will have their phone, and I'm like, no, that's not happening. And that idea of putting my parent hat on and making sure that I know exactly what I'm doing when it comes to social media, it has to be, as a parent, teaching my child on how to use it effectively. But it's difficult because we're kind of learning on the job. One thing I've learned, though, is there's nothing more powerful than the mute button. If you can control your diet, and if there's someone who you feel is just you're a bit too negative for my liking, and it doesn't have to be challenging everything, it's just that you've got a bit of a negative mindset for whatever reason. It's just not what I'm into in that situation. Some people can look at it and almost get lost in that and enjoy that aspect. It's not something that I'm a fan of. It's kind of the inspirational, the motivational things that I'll really try and keep on my feed, which I just find really, really just, it's nice. It's nice to wake up to those kind of things. Don't get me wrong. The second some sort of drama is happening, I will get my popcorn at the ready and immerse in that for about half an hour. But at the same time, I do try and think and then look at the clock and think, God, I've lost about an hour of my life that I'm not going to get back now as well.
It's like an old Western, isn't it? Everyone loves a bar fight if they're watching from the side.
100%, 100%. And I think that and TikTok dancing is just, I lose myself too much in that, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, my wife is kind of obsessed. She's kind of like a voyeur on kind of TikTok. She doesn't ever post anything, but watches everything else go through, including your good self as well. So I think she probably likes you more than me, especially right now.
Well, if it's TikTok, it's not me. It's Dad. Dad is the only one of us who's doing anything on TikTok, which I love. I love the fact that out of all of us, the only one of us who's actually physically on TikTok. We've got one. The Siddiquis, I've got a TikTok account. I don't even know what it's called, but it's really just to see what Dad's doing.
So Sid's got his own TikTok account as well. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All of these links will be in the bio, because I want to make sure that we get Sid some support as well.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. Yeah.
So are you truly being heard in life and in business? And think about that genuinely. If the answer to that is no, then you've found the right event. If you want to give yourself that boost personally and professionally, come along to Find Your Voice Live. This will change your life. This will be the game changer that you've been looking for.
It provides me with the confidence in myself to prove to myself that I can do it, I can get up on stage, I can speak.
There's absolutely nothing to be nervous about with these events. It's very, very open, very, very relaxed.
Help my confidence go from here at the beginning of the day to here at the end of the day.
Hey everyone, my name is Nick Elston. I'm an inspirational speaker on the lived experience of mental health and a transformational speaking coach. I'm the founder of Forging People, and Find Your Voice Live is our flagship event where we cross the boundaries of personal development, mental health, transformation and public speaking. Your ability to speak, to deliver any message to any audience with clarity and power and emotion will have an ultimately defining impact on your success by your own definition of that really subjective term. Speaking is life, speaking is business, speaking is education, and that's the thing that we focus on most. What I find is that people are here for many, many different reasons. Some people do absolutely want to be a stage speaker or a professional speaker. Some people want to be able to represent their business or to lead a team or inspire a movement or create a story. But even actually, some people want to be here just because they want to be heard at home. Maybe they don't feel their opinions being heard, that they can't say yes to the things they want to say yes to or no to the things they want to say no to. Again, this is where personal development meets mental health, meets public speaking to create a real positive impact. At the end of Find Your Voice Live, you will walk away with massive confidence around delivering your message. The ability to stand up and deliver means you will enhance your self-esteem in an amazing way. You will also have the skills and tools and tips and techniques to not only deliver a presentation, but to structure a presentation, to find your audience, to be able to deliver emotional storytelling to help your audience feel and make them want to be part of your tribe, make them want to be part of your following, and really tune into what you're truly about, to truly make yourself heard in life and in business. If you're sat on the fence, if you're still not sure, take the model that I use, say yes, worry about it later, and I'll make sure that you're looked after brilliantly. Myself and my team will make sure that you have an amazing day, transformational day that will have the desired positive impact that you want to achieve.
Yeah.
So, I mean, bridging that kind of social media to Gogglebox kind of link, I guess. Have you ever experienced any toxicity from the increased visibility of being on mainstream TV?
There was one experience I remember a while ago, and it was there was a Facebook post that my brother posted on his personal Facebook page. Mm-hmm. However, he tagged me into it, and it was kind of at the time where I was using my personal account and just accepting friends really early on into Gogglebox. Anyway, that escalated, and it was a post that people and they have the right to it. They were offended by the post that was put on. And then that made it into a newspaper, and then it was kind of like a horrible 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
It really was. But like, again, we kind of just kept our heads down with it. We apologized and said that, look, this was meant for private consumption. Yeah. It's not something that we physically wrote on our posts. And that was honestly, to this day, the only negative backlash that we've had. We've been one of the really fortunate families I think, that have just had really nice, positive messages about it.
Everyone seems to love you guys, like genuinely. Like everyone seems to. When I've mentioned you to people that I've been speaking to, and you coming on the show as well, like, oh, I love that family. They're amazing.
You know what? It's just I don't know what it is. If you could bottle it, it'd be fantastic. But honestly, people are always so nice when they stop you in the street and just kind of have a conversation with you. They're really lovely. They're really respectful as well. For example, I was where was I yesterday? I was kind of getting some cash from the cash point, and I clocked two people who recognized me in a shop that was where the cash point was. And I recognized them, but I'm never going to be the kind of person to sort of stop and say, oh, do you want a selfie or anything like that? Because I just think he's a little bit big-headed. But this lady came out of the shop when I was near the lights to cross the road, and she was so apologetic for stopping me and going, look, I know I'm eating into your day, but I just wanted to say I love you, I love your family. And I just thought, God, what, you're just being so respectful in this situation.
Beautiful.
Almost apologetic for stopping us in that situation. And it's just really, really nice. And then it's you again, it goes back to that reflective nature. What is it about the way that lady stopped and was so apologetic? Did she just look at my face and go, yeah, this guy doesn't want to be stopped right now? I'm 90% sure I'm walking around with a smile on my face, but I might not be. Whereas dad, bless him, he walks around with a big smile on his face all the time.
Yeah.
And he, out of all of us, does get stopped the most. I think I walk around with a bit of a scowl on my face, you know, and people like go, yeah, I don't think this guy wants to be stopped. But nothing could be further from the truth. If you want to stop and say hi, I'm more than happy with that.
Yeah, I get nothing but that impression. I think a lot of it is in the mindset of the person who's doing the approaching. That I always remember that me and my family big country music fans. And there was a guy called Darius Rucker that was starring in Bristol, and we saw him getting out of his kind of like his huge executive kind of coach, whatever it is, and me being quite shy, actually, weirdly, in that situation. I kind of like, I just stood back, smiled a little bit, and took a photo from a distance. My mum was like, whoosh, straight in, by his side, give him a kiss on the cheek. And I'm thinking like, oh. So I think it's the mindset of the person that's doing the approaching, to be fair.
It is. And you know what really makes me laugh? When we get stopped, as a collective, when we're together, me, dad, and the brothers as well, we will get stopped a lot more in that sense, because it's just, you kind of recognize the whole package in that situation. And one thing that we've noticed is that 9 times out of 10, when someone asks for a selfie, it's not for themselves. They'll say, oh, it's for my dad loves you guys, or my wife loves you guys. They'll kill me if I don't have a photo. And we sort of just laugh it off and go, oh, yeah, sure. We deep down, we know you want it for yourself. Now, we were in London the other day, and as a family, and we saw, is it Bill Pullman, the chap who's in Sinner and Independence Day? Is it Bill Pullman?
Yeah.
So we saw him go into a cafe, and we kept like creeping around and trying to like look at him and see him. And then we asked the waiter, we go, oh, is that Bill Pullman? Is he there? And he goes, I'll find out for you. And it was him. And then we ummed and ahed, me and Umma did, for ages, to whether or not we should get a photo. And we didn't in the end. And I remember us walking back, and my brother said, oh, Carly would have loved a photo if I got it with us. I thought, you know what? The amount of times we judge people for saying that we're not getting it for ourselves, we're getting it for someone else. Maybe there is a lot of truth in that, actually, when you do, because you kind of want to acknowledge and let other people know that you had that photo as well. But yeah,
absolutely. I think especially in that kind of the world of sharing as well, I think it's good. And I mean, that again, it's, I guess, celebrity from that sense is not. It's maybe only 50% from the show and 50% from the visibility from things like social and press and PR and stuff, isn't it?
Absolutely, definitely. But it's it's a mad world. It is a mad world.
First time I watched Gogglebox, my wife was watching it before me, and the first time I watched it, I thought, this is daft. Who's going to watch telly about people watching telly? And then 6 years later, I'm still watching. It's a regular fixture in the thing, and it just works. And so how does it actually explain the setup then? Because it's obviously a really quick turnaround, isn't it? Because you're talking about like events from the week, from the shows in the week. Do you get given a schedule of when you need to be watching stuff or recordings or what?
So in terms of the structure, we all as families will watch the same shows, because otherwise it just wouldn't work. But they come with a set-top box, and you never know what you're going to watch. they'll press play to whatever it is because they want that authentic reaction in that situation. But I've always said this: the genius is absolutely in the editing. In the workshops that I do through Siddiqui Education, I've made a little bit of a maths point and a maths lesson from it, where I say, okay, we film 5 nights a week. Not us as a family, but all the collective families film 5 nights a week, and there's 5 crews out at 5 households 5 nights a week. That's X amount of hours that are filmed because you film in 6-hour slots. So what's that? Is that 30 hours a night, 5 hours a week? Sorry, 5 days a week. So that's 150 hours. So, okay, express that as a percentage when you splice up that 150 hours into a 45, 50-minute show. And it is the genius is in the editing, telling that story and working towards that punchline in each of those sets. Because essentially, if we were all saying different things, it just wouldn't work in that situation. What you'd find is, and I think that's part of the beauty of Gogglebox, although all the families are different and they've got different aspects to them and different dynamics, essentially we all do think the same way or have similar values in certain situations, which I think is just really nice to see. But essentially the genius has always been in the editing and that team work around the clock to kind of splice it all together and make it sound and come together really well. But you're absolutely right, the turnaround is brutal. It's a fast turnaround.
It's fascinating stuff. I was going to get Craig Cash to do the kind of narration on this episode today, but I thought it might be quite expensive, so I left it.
Yeah, I think it would be. Yeah, it's got to be a Craig Cash sound alike, though. There's got to be
we'll find one somewhere, I'm sure. So I guess things like it must be interesting to watch with your dad and your brother when they get you to watch like Naked Attraction or something like that. You kind of think, whoa. I think of myself watching Naked Attraction with my dad. I would just want the world to swallow me up right now, if I'm honest.
Yeah, there has been times in the stuff that we've watched where it is a little bit cringeworthy. But you know what? It's brought us, as odd as it sounds, it has brought us together closer as a family. We were already very close. And it's just that scenario and that environment, you're kind of doing it with family. And obviously the camera guys and the sound guys that work in the background, we've known them for years now, so it's just hanging out with mates more than anything.
Oh, I love that. And do you get to know the other families very well at all?
No, not really met any of them. If we've gone to like an occasional gig here, there, and everywhere, for example, an award ceremony or anything like that, then you'd meet. I think logistically, it's just really difficult to make that happen more than anything.
Yeah, I guess, well, especially kind of in terms of diversification over the country, you are scattered out completely, aren't you? So
all over the place, yeah, definitely.
And I guess from a media perspective, before we come on to the business and stuff, in terms of a media perspective, I know some people have gone on to do other forms of TV, whether that be like the kind of the I'm a celebrity kind of work, that kind of stuff. Is that something that's on your agenda to look at other kind of expanding more into other TV shows or not?
I think I speak for the whole Siddiquis when I say no, really, honestly not. I remember when I handed my notice in full-time as a teacher, and people were like saying, "Oh, when are we going to see you on The Jungle, or when are we going to see you on I'm a Celebrity? Get me out of here." And I just remember just smiling, thinking that, look, nothing could be further from the truth. What Gogglebox has afforded us is this platform for people to know us a little bit more, our authentic selves, which is brilliant. But it doesn't encroach on our lives too much as well. Like we'll film a couple of hours a week over a set period of time. But then, honestly, 99.9% of my life is so normal. My wife makes every effort to make sure that I'm as grounded as possible. The second my ego is getting out of check, she will give me a slap on the back of the head. But what I mean, and obviously this segues nicely into what I do now, but the opportunities it's afforded me and kind of having that voice and being known through the show, but linking it to education is one of the greatest gifts that it's given me more than anything, if I'm honest with you.
Absolutely. And if you want to eat a plate of kangaroo's testicles, there's comfier ways to do it. At home would be
100%. Yeah, definitely. I think
just thrown out there if you do want them. It's easy.
I think you can get them on Deliveroo now. I'm sure you can do. I'm sure you can.
That would not surprise me at all, to be honest. Get everything else. So talking about kind of work then, so I'm going to give you the high level overview, LinkedIn version of what you do. So you are, don't panic, it's fine. So you are the co-founder of Time, which we'll come on to. along with the wonderful Katie, the training and development consultant Empower My Voice, where you're looking at kind of racial literacy training to businesses. That's an interesting one. So we've not really discussed that off camera. That's a really interesting one. There's so many things you do. Straight to Teach Pathway Tutor, founding alumni board member, University of Derby. The list goes on. Where should we start? Start with time.
It makes me sound really, really busy, doesn't it? Honestly, I guess if I was going to start anywhere, though, it is really the work that I do through Siddiqui Education. Which, if you were going to sort of define what the work I do on a day-to-day business basis, Siddiqui Education came about because of a workshop that I kind of created in my head. We talk about mind wandering and giving your mind that permission to kind of just go off and drift off into different directions. And I remember when I'd handed my notice in at full-time as a full-time teacher, because I just wanted to explore a bit of supply. Gogglebox was there as something that I could do in the background and just give myself a bit of a break. I remember this walk home thinking that, okay, what can I do? I still love being in the classroom and actually teaching. Being a supply teacher wouldn't necessarily afford me that luxury because I'd just be teaching someone else's content. And then I started to think about, okay, I've got these unique connections in the TV industry. I've got the experience and the passion to teach. Why don't I see if I can merge the two together? And from that, my main workshop called Let's Pitch It was born. And Let's Pitch It essentially is a day workshop. Typically, I work with a group of 30 students. Typically, I would work with free school meal students, disadvantaged students, pupil premium students. And essentially, we'd spend the day developing their transferable skills where they'd research, present, and create and pitch an idea for a television show. Part of a national competition at the end of the academic year, all of these ideas come to me. We vote on a series of ones to be shown to the Studio Lambert team, who are the guys who create Gogglebox. They choose the overall winner and then invite that winner or those winners down to Studio Lambert to meet the Siddiquis, to get some spending money and go out in London. So it's it's all just a celebration of just creativity, collaboration, presentation skills. And the workshop itself has evolved over the last couple of years in the sense that I've learned to celebrate the bits that are the most important. Regardless of if you win or not, think about every single transferable skill you've used today and how important it is in whatever you plan to do next. Someone described it as learning through stealth. It's a really fun day. They kind of build up in the morning. They're really empowered by their creative ideas. And then the afternoon is focusing on that oracy side. And if you don't believe in your idea and if you can't sell me on your idea, why should we believe it's a winning idea? So it's about that persuasive language, that confidence in presenting that idea to the rest of your peers. So it's such a lovely experience. As I had zero doubt when I first came up with the idea, I knew for a fact that the kids would come up with some weird and wonderful and just incredible, insightful ideas. And that's where Siddiqui Education kind of was born about. But I do lots of other workshops now. I collaborate with lots of different partners. There's a competition I run called Books on the Box, where kids read their favorite books, but then they turn it into a trailer and talk about why they love literacy, why they love reading. And then that's another competition element. I do tend to link quite a lot of the work I do to the competitive element, which in some aspects can be seen as a bit of a not everyone likes competition, but at the same time I make a point of that and say that it's about celebrating your creativity as well. If the idea of competitiveness doesn't appeal to you, I know that it does appeal to some students, then still focus on the creativity aspects of it and you'll still absolutely love it and really enjoy it. And then obviously it opened up in terms of the workshops that I do, the motivational talks, talking about my business journey, the experiences that I've had running a business, leveraging opportunities like Gogglebox and kind of merging the television and the teacher aspect of my life and making the most of that. And it seems to all be going well in that sense. And I keep getting asked to do almost motivational assemblies within schools, CPD training sessions to teachers around strategies that support disadvantaged kids. So yeah, I think one of the biggest things is, and although it looks like I'm doing a lot on LinkedIn, it all boils down to the fact that when you've worked in education as long as you have, it's about reflecting on what's working, what isn't working, and using that toolkit that you've got to provide whoever's listening, whoever your audience is, an educational experience. And I think the key thing is to make sure that it's whatever content you're creating, whether it's a presentation, whether it's a workshop, is something that your audience can latch onto, that they can resonate with, and then hopefully learn something from as well. So as you can see through LinkedIn, I do lots of different bits and pieces, but that's really where it always falls back on. I'd like to think that I have a formula now. When it comes to creating any kind of workshop with any kind of client, I know that I can create something that would leave their audience, whoever their audience is, with some sort of impactful, insightful experience with me. It's been great.
And yeah, I love your journey. And I love the fact that kind of Siddiqui Education becomes the umbrella for everything else as well. The Time platform is with the wonderful Katie. How did you guys meet?
So Katie and I met during lockdown, and again, it's about that power of collaboration. So Katie, bless her, she's an ex-teacher, and she's created a fantastic platform, and I love the simplicity of it. It's called Did Teach. Essentially, she's championing what I've known for years, having left full-time education. I think that the education profession within itself can give itself a really hard time, whether that's because of media's perception of it, so-called parents' perception of it, that it's almost like, oh, well, what do? You kind of have 6 weeks off in the summer and you finish at 3. Nothing could be further from the truth. The amount of effort and the vocational aspect of being a teacher. I know so many teachers that put their heart and soul into the work that they do purely for the kids that they work with, to their detriment, to their own well-being, and that's something that's just never sat right with me. Katie's kind of realized that behind every single teacher there are some amazingly skilled people. There aren't many people that can keep a group of year 8 students engaged on a Friday last period. You have to have an element of showmanship, salesmanship, selling your subject in that situation. You've got to be able to tell a story. You've got to be able to analyze data, communicate, network, whatever skill there is. There are so many transferable skills a teacher has. And Did Teach is a platform where it's essentially a job site. Those teachers that are looking to kind of expand either outside of the profession or kind of do a mix of both, half and half. There's jobs out there where people are actually looking for teachers or former teachers. And Did Teach is a brilliant platform for that. Time takes that a stage further, where we've created a platform that it's a CPD platform almost, where teachers can look at different elements of what makes a teacher, but it's also a platform where parents can see what's required to feel that you're happy in this parenting game more than anything. And there's just loads of different resources from fantastic collaborators such as yourself that have their content, their story, that people can just click on and learn something from more than anything. And it's in terms of the platform, is something that I absolutely love for so many different reasons. It's got a section to sort of help and empower teaching staff and school staff. It's got a section to empower parents and make them feel a bit more confident in what they're doing as parents. And it's also got exercises and workshops for kids to do as well. You could argue that we've made it too broad, and we just, when it comes to the selling aspect of it, who are we actually selling it to? But I'm a firm believer in the product, in the actual Time platform. I know that once it finds this audience and its right audience, and I'd rather make sure it's got something for everyone as opposed to just targeting one audience in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel that teaching has put you in a good position for kind of keynote speaking as you do now?
100%, definitely. And it goes back to that fact that I will never have a harsher critic in the keynote world than I did when I was teaching year 8s, who would just openly, honestly be very honest in terms of the content I was teaching. And it goes back to that reflective nature. It's conditioned me to, whatever the outcome was from any keynote that I've done, I'll still reflect on it and go, okay, how can I improve that a little bit more? What bit can I take out just to get that message across? What graphic goes well with this? And I love that fact. I love that 5 years going in, and the testimonials that I've had have been that They can tell that the talks that I do, even if it's little shifts in language, little things that you do, subtle changes, you've made it relevant to them and their audience and their message that they're trying to get across.
Absolutely.
And I think that's so important.
Yeah, it is. As I quite often quip that I work in prisons and I work in schools, and parents completely understand this. Prisons far easier than schools. I remember going. I will leave them unnamed for sake of embarrassment, but I was delivering a series of talks at a college in the south somewhere, and I was 3 kind of keynote talks, and in between they wanted me to pop into this class of students that they just had real problems getting into class, and they obviously had come from really kind of troubled backgrounds, and they were really trying to motivate them to just re-engage in education again. So I kind of sauntered in like I do. I think I had a t-shirt and a cap on, and I stood at the back. And his kid in the back, he just said, "Why the f are we here? Who is this effing guy?" I said, "I don't know. I hear he's massively overrated anyway." The lecturer comes in, introduces me, went, "I'm so sorry."
Wow.
No filter.
This is it, isn't it?
Yeah.
No filter, yeah. And they say you shouldn't work. What do they say in TV? You shouldn't work with kids and animals. There's a reason for that, because they'll just tell you how it is. And I love them for it, though. The fact that kids will just say it as it is. And you know that when you won them over and that audience over, and they come to you afterwards saying that really spoke to me, then you know you are making a difference in that situation. And that's the key thing, isn't it?
It is. And I think also in that situation, the commonality between all of the students, after speaking to each of them afterwards, that they lacked kind of positive male role models, that every male that they had encountered before had just done them wrong in some ways, and some really extreme ways as well. And again, you start to see the bigger picture of why it's important to do what we both do. It kind of re-engages people in a very different way. It's not dry or boring or kind of classroom in that sense. It's taking a different approach, and I love what you do. So keep on doing what you're doing. Now, I can talk to you for hours, but for the sake of the podcast, I better wrap this up. But we want to get you back again, because I'm sure there's loads more we can cover. But before you go, the question I ask everybody, and it forms a playlist at the end of the season: if I were announcing you to the stage, so 20,000 people at the O2 Arena have paid their hard-earned money to come in here, you do your thing. I'm about to announce you to the stage. You're sitting back in the green room, and your walk-on music kicks in. That song that motivates you, that lifts you, that gets you at peak state. Baasit Siddiqui, what would your walk-on music be, and why?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Really good question. I would say there's 2 ways of looking at it. You could go with the kind of typical one, Survivor, Rocky, but I'm not going to go there in that sense. But I think, out of interest, how many people have said Survivor, Eye of the Tiger?
There's a lot of Rocky themes. There's a lot of Rocky themes going through.
Be up there, but it's so cliche as well now, isn't it? That's the problem. But I should really have an answer to this, because I'm a closet wrestling fan as well. So like the fact that I haven't got like a go-to entrance music, I'm really not done my homework in that sense. Yeah. I'd say that if I was going to choose, and there is a close second, I don't know if you've heard it, Rain by Dragon. The start of that is amazing. It's like this synthy start, and it kind of builds up like Eye of the Tiger, but it's Rain by a Dragon. It's like it's got an 80s vibe to it.
What's a close second out of interest?
I would say it's probably because I've seen an Instagram post with it on. These dancers are dancing to it. Have you heard that? Touch in the Night. I can't remember who does it. I can't remember.
Again, I will look that up. I can't say I have off the top of my head.
I'm trying to think. And then I would say just to mellow in, because I know what I'm like. I'm not very ampy when it comes to my keynotes. I remember I did one for someone right at the start, and they wanted like an entrance music. And then I just kind of like saunter on. I like to think that I'm a bit more Jack D when it comes to the way that I do my delivery. So I'd say one that always resonates quite nicely with me is Half the World Away by Oasis.
Oh, nice. Very good.
Nice, chilled come on as well, I think I'd do as well.
I like the kind of the royal family vibe associated to the
Well,
Gogglebox
this is
vibe
it.
as
Yeah,
well.
I thought, I can't go within a perfect world because that's just too on the nose in that sense.
But that's
Royal
gold.
family happening either way.
Great choices.
Yeah.
Tell you what, I'll put all of those on the playlist at the end of the season. There we go. So all good.
Oh, amazing.
Right.
Fantastic.
Now, Baasit Siddiqui, thank you so much for your time. Absolutely amazing guest. Thank you for donating your busy time to be with us today. I hope everybody else enjoyed this as much as I did. Please do connect with Baasit. I'm sure he's happy to hear from you. All of his links and stuff. Connect with Sid on TikTok. All of the links are going to be in the bio. So please just ramp it all up for him. And yeah, so Baasit, thanks again. And for everybody else, please stay tuned, hit like, subscribe, and all that jazz, whatever it takes to get you back here next Monday for our next episode featuring another amazing guest. In the meantime, be well, be happy, take care. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye. Bye.
See you guys.